In the criminal justice system, Trump's offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the corrupt detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Trump's Victims Unit. These are their stories. Dum-dum! Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Kyle Dockery with the Dockery Docket. We are here with another fantastic episode of the Dockery Docket. I'm excited to be here, and I hope that you are excited to be here as well. And if you are excited to be here as well, make sure to go down below, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, so then you never miss one of my videos. So I know that intro was a little bit different, and my voice kind of changed, and I also couldn't talk in that voice the entire time because it would just get old. But we do have a criminal case that we have to look at. But first, we have to talk about how in the United States, we have the Sixth Amendment, which claims that every American citizen has a right to a fair and speedy trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime has been committed. Now, the question is, what if the trial isn't speedy, and what if the jury is biased against the person? This is the concern right now with the new Trump hush money trial that is going on in New York City right now. I believe that the case is an absolute joke, and the people that are involved, from the judge to the jury, have the possibility of being corrupt. Everyone can see that this is just a political witch hunt against Donald Trump. This is a Democratic ploy to make sure that Trump can't campaign, and they also want to take all of his money away as he has to pay for lawyers and also the fines that he has to pay for speaking about the corruption that this trial is full of. It is sad to watch the party that claimed that Trump arresting his political opponents was a fascist move, but now they're doing the exact same thing, arresting their political opponents to save democracy. But before we dive into the corruption, let's actually look at why Donald Trump is on trial in the first place. So this whole case revolves around hush money payments that Trump paid before the 2016 election, as at one point Trump was working with a media group called American Media Inc., which is the publisher of National Enquirer. Their job was to catch and kill different stories that were embarrassing to Donald Trump. Like there was a story from a doorman that alleged that Donald Trump had fathered a child out of wedlock, which later turned out to be false. Then there was a story from a former Playboy model named Karen McDougall who claimed that they had an affair. However, the one that got Trump in the most trouble was the hush money that he paid to Stephanie Clifford, also known as Stormy Daniels, as Trump arranged Michael Cohen to pay Daniels $130,000 to prevent her from disclosing the story of them having an affair. And now after this deed was done, Trump had to pay Cohen back. And Trump did that by using business entries that called the payments attorney fees, which according to Alvin Bragg was Trump falsifying business records. Now the thing here is that Trump has already been investigated for this by the U.S. Attorney General's office, and they decided not to bring any criminal charges against Donald Trump for the same exact thing. Along with that, this is a misdemeanor in New York, so it should just mean that Trump pays a fine and then is back to campaigning. So why is it that these misdemeanors were changed to felonies? Well, let's take a look at the indictment. As Bragg is charging Trump with 34 felonies, as Bragg believes that Trump tried to conceal different crimes behind these payments that he was giving to Cohen and Cohen was giving to Stormy Daniels. What are these crimes, you might be asking? Well, Bragg won't tell us. As he said in a statement, "I'm not going to go into our deliberative process on what was brought. The charges that were brought were the ones that were brought. The evidence and the law is the basis for those decisions." Bragg didn't even put them in the indictment, so Trump hasn't been charged with these secret crimes that he apparently did, but Bragg has this magical background information that could land Trump in jail. Give me a break. We should be able to see that this case is just another way to get Donald Trump in jail. It's stupid. Now, there is speculation that the payments that Trump gave were campaign finance violations, which is a felony, but Bragg doesn't even have the power to prosecute those as a district attorney. However, this is what they are running with for this case, as the state now has to prove that Trump made the false business records with the intent to commit fraud. Otherwise, Trump would would not be guilty of a crime at all because falsifying business records for non-fraudulent purposes is not a crime under the statute. Now, traditional fraud means that the person that receives financial benefit, or Donald Trump, was misleading a victim, and it must cause the victim to suffer damages, like, for example, Stormy Daniels having some sort of damages from getting paid by Donald Trump. And also, if this fraud was to cover up another crime, like the campaign finance law or other election violations, Trump would have had to known that the payment was an election law violation, and have falsified the records to cover that up. The question is, was Trump trying to disguise the payments to prevent his family or the public from knowing about these embarrassing allegations, or was he trying to cover up a crime? This is what the judge and the jury have to figure out to convict Trump and send him to jail for basically his entire life. And in the judge's statement on this case, he expresses that Trump did this crime to influence the 2016 election. As he said, the allegations reflect in substance that Donald Trump falsified business records to conceal an agreement with others to unlawfully influence the 2016 presidential election. Specifically, it is alleged that Donald Trump made or caused false business records to hide the true nature of payments made to Michael Cohen by characterizing them as payment for legal services rendered pursuant to a retainer agreement. The people allege that, in fact, the payments were intended to reimburse Michael Cohen for money he paid Stormy Daniels, or Stephanie Clifford, in the weeks before the presidential election to prevent her from publicly revealing details about a past sexual encounter with Donald Trump. Once again, it looks like they're going with this idea that Trump tried to interfere in the election crap. Also, is this judge saying that the 2016 election was rigged? Because if he is, then he should be indicted. It is just absolutely ridiculous because the thing about this statement is that the judge fails to state when it is unlawful to influence an election. As influencing an election isn't a crime, as politicians try to influence elections all the time. Politicians have lied, they have made things up, and they have even covered things up to prevent embarrassing things from going out into the public. Also in this case, the court or the district attorney have not made it clear who was defrauded and what the independent crime was, because Bragg nor the judge will tell us what the crime was that Trump was trying to cover up with this money. This case should have been thrown out the window when it was put on the judge's desk, because a case like this has happened before with a politician that paid hush money to someone else. As in 2011, presidential candidate John Edwards was charged after receiving $90,000 in illegal campaign contributions from friends to make a hush money payment to a woman that he had an affair and a child with. Along with that, this was all happening while John Edwards' wife was dying of cancer. It was a terribly sad story that ended the political career of John Edwards. Now, Edwards got this money from a third party, which is actually a campaign finance law violation, as he used campaign funds to pay off the woman. Trump, on the other hand, used his own money. And even though Edwards did break the law, the jury found Edwards not guilty of violating the campaign finance laws, and the government decided not to pursue the remaining charges that the jury was unable to decide on. This simply means that this whole Trump sham trial should be thrown out or treated just like the John Edwards case, which means that it should be thrown out and Trump should be back on the campaign trail with this case not even a bother in his mind. Sadly, however, I don't believe that Trump will ever get a fair trial in the deep blue state of New York, and it doesn't help when there is corruption in every single corner. But that will have to be talked about in part 2 of the Trump Victims Unit, so make sure to stick around. And with that, I just want to thank you so much for watching this episode of the Dockery Docket. And until next time, like my mom always says, be good, be kind, be loving, goodbye.